Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Kevin, and I would like to share with you this exciting AWS Cloud hands-on project. I will be setting up a two-tier architecture which separates the application into two layers, the web server and the database server. Now this approach enhances scalability, security, and manageability. The web server that I will be deploying is called Joomla, which is very similar to WordPress. This will be running on an Ubuntu EC2 instance, while the database I will be setting up is MySQL, running on the AWS RDS platform. Besides building the infrastructure and setting up applications, I will also be creating the necessary security groups, shell scripting for efficiency, automation, and applying proper naming conventions for compliance documentation and team training. In this project, I am a consultant working for a fictitious firm called AdventureWorks. Now, AdventureWorks is an innovative travel agency that specializes in organizing adventure tours and travel packages around the globe. As part of their digital strategy to enhance customer engagement and streamline operations, they plan to launch a new website using Joomla as their content management system. I hope this gives you guys an opportunity to learn and grow. Enough talk, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a VPC. So once you're on your main console page, select VPC. It's going to take you to the VPC dashboard. You're going to click Create VPC. Now once in, you're going to leave it at the default setting, VPC and more. And with this setting, with this selection, it allows you to configure the VPC, subnets, routing tables, and internet gateways all together, or one after the other. So for example, when we come up with a name, this unique name is going to be auto-populated for each of the different categories. So the project we're working on is AdventureWorks. And as you can take a look, you see all the different sections have the Adventure W in their names. This is a really cool feature. Okay, so let's configure the CIDR block for this. We do 10.10, 0.0.16. Now for this project, we're going to need 2 availability zones. We're going to need 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets. And we don't need an S3 gateway. Okay, let's customize the subnets. So the first subnet block, we're going to do 10.10.1.0/24. The second one is going to be 10.10.2. The third one is 10.10.3. /24. And the fourth subnet is going to be 10.10.4.0.24. Okay, so we have 4 subnets, 2 public, 2 private, 2 AZs. Okay, let's just go over the settings really quick. We have the main starter block 10.10.0.0.16. Got the name. Okay, let's go ahead and create. As you can see, we're creating each component, the VPC. We're going to create the subnets. We're going to create the internet gateway. And we're going to create the routing tables. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so let's take a look at the VPC that was created. Okay, and if we look at the resource map, which we looked at earlier, it shows us the VPC was created, the subnets under AZ1, or the first AZ, public private, second AZ, public private, the routing tables, and the internet gateway. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a security group. So let me get this set up. Okay, let's go to security group. So let me open up another tab. And we're going to take a look at the EC2 dashboard. And under the EC2, we have security group. Okay, so we're going to create a security group for this specific VPC. So let's do one for VPC. So we're going to create a security group. I'm going to name this VPC security group. Description, we can say allows TP in from anywhere and SSH. Okay, so we're not going to use the default VPC, but we're going to use the one that we just created, which is the Adventure W. So the inbound rule, the first rule we're going to create is HTTP. We're going to allow HTTP, TCP, port 80 from anywhere. Second one we're going to create is SSH. This is what we're going to use as the administrators. TCP port 22 from anywhere. Outbound rule, going out from anywhere. Okay, so that looks good. Let's save. Okay, so as you can see, the security group that we just created, inbound rule, it allows SSH from anywhere, and it allows HTTP from anywhere. Okay. So we created a security group. So next we're going to do is we're going to create an EC2 instance, and we're going to set up this instance in our first public subnet. So let's go to instances. Now we're going to launch an Ubuntu image for EC2. So let's launch. Okay, once again, let's name this. Let's give it a unique name, but the name will stay consistent with the project. Adventure W. And this EC2 will also host our Joomla application. Okay, so we'll call it Adventure W. Okay. And it's Joomla EC2. As I stated earlier, we're going to select Ubuntu. Okay. It's going to be a 64-bit. It's going to be a T2 micro, which is free tier. We're going to use an existing key pair. For network settings, we're going to edit this. We don't want to use the default VPC, but we want to use the newly created one, Adventure W. This is going to be in the subnet, which is public. So let's pick the first, AZ, public. Okay, US East 1A. We're going to make sure we auto enable the public IP. This is important so that we can SSH in, as well as get an IP so that we can look at the public IP address of the EC2 instance. Security group. Since this is a new VPC, we're going to create a security group for this VPC. We're going to call it Sure. Okay, description. HTTP from anywhere and SSH. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select HTTP, TCP port 80, source anywhere. Okay, so that's good. We're going to add another rule. This rule is going to be for SSH. Okay, let me select SSH TCP port 22, and we're going to do from anywhere. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch this instance. So this is one instance, the public subnet. Okay, going to wait a few minutes for that to launch. Okay, let's go to our instances section, and as you can see, we have our first instance. Let me select. Okay, you see we have the name of the instance, Adventure W Joomla. We have a public IP address. And so we're going to do two things. We're going to SSH into the instance just to make sure we can do that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to connect. We're going to go to SSH client. And as you can see, this is the link we're going to select in order to SSH in. And we have to make sure we do it with the correct key pairs that I chose. Let me select a command prompt and let me change directory to where my key pairs are. Okay. Let me select on the link. Enter. Yes. Okay, and as you can see, we are in our Ubuntu services on the EC2 instance. So let me do a quick check. Host name. Okay, so this lets me know the IP address that I'm using, and this lets me know who I'm logged in as. I'm logged in as a default Ubuntu user account. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Let's go back to our instances. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to select the public IP address of our EC2 instance, and we're going to go to a web browser, paste that in, enter, and let's see what happens when we try to connect. Circling, nothing's happening. Okay, so we get this message. So this is telling us that we are not able to access a web server or a web application. And when we set up this EC2 instance, I didn't have an Apache web server installed, enabled, and started. This is why we're getting this message. So this is okay. This is good. Okay, so right now we're going to go through the manual steps in installing the Apache, updating software, any patches, downloading Joomla, installing Joomla, and doing some basic configurations. So let's go to our command prompt where we have our AWS CLI. Okay, we're still logged into the Ubuntu session. We're going to put our command. Okay, so let's start off by updating our packages. Okay. Okay, so this command updates the packages for Ubuntu, all the extensions, all the software patches that's necessary. So we'll let this run. All right, so we just completed. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to install Apache. We're also going to install PHP, which is a language used for Joomla, similar to like WordPress and all the required modules. So let me just get the command. Okay, so let me paste this in. I'm going to let this run. Now for this portion of our project, the foundational, this needs to be done manually. So we're going to go through these steps. We're going to let that run. Okay, it's almost done. Okay, perfect. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start the Apache 2 web server. Okay, now we're going to enable the web server. Okay. Now we're going to go through the steps to download the Joomla application. So what Apache does by default, it installs 3 folders, the var, www, and HTML. Within that, there's the index.html file. So right now we're going to go into that directory. So we're going to change directories. Let's do a list. Okay. 12 files in here. Okay, so you can see there's an index.html file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Joomla website and we're going to download packages. We're going to do it in this HTML folder. Okay, I'm going to let that run. Okay, so as you see, it downloaded And next thing we're going to do is we're going to unzip these files. Okay, run this command. Alright, it's going through the process of unzipping the files. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to change ownership of these folders. So we're going to do a read to these folders. And we're going to do a change mode. Okay, next step, since we have the index.html file, which is needed for Apache 2, we're going to just remove that because we're not going to be using Apache anymore, but we will be using the Joomla application. We're going to remove that. Now, we're actually going to create we're going to go into a file called directory.config, and we're going to modify that. We're going to modify it so that Joomla will be the primary web server. And in here, okay, so we use the editing tool Nano to get into this file. And right now, as you can see, we have index.html comes first, and then we have index.php at the end. What we want to do is we want to put the index.php before the index.html. So right in front of the index, I'm going to type PHP, and we're going to delete index.php here. Okay, perfect. We have the index.php before the index.html. This is going to be the preference. Now we're going to save our changes. Control O. We're going to get out, Control X. We're going to enter, Control X. Okay, we're out of that file. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to restart Apache 2. Okay, we just restarted it. Okay, so now let's take a look. Let's exit out of here. Exit again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our instances where we have our newly created EC2. We're going to select the public IP address. We're going to look for a web browser again. Copy, paste, enter, and voila, we have the Joomla web server, or the CMS, contact management services. So now that we're at the Joomla site, let's do a few basic administration activities. Site name, we're going to call this Adventure Works. And as the first person setting up, we would be the super user or the administrator. Let's put in an email. Let's put a generic email address in here. We call it admin. username, we'll just put admin. Password, you have to put a unique password. Okay, we'll have to leave the site online. Let's go to next. Okay, we're not going to save that. Alright, so we went through the configuration tab, we're in the database tab. So a lot of this information, we can provide answers after we create the relational database server, the RDS. So once we create that, we'll be able to get the host name or the endpoint. Then we'll put the username, password, database name, then that'll provide us to get to the next step. So right now, let's get to a tab to create the RDS database. So let's go to our home tab, and I want to open up a third tab. Okay, in this tab, we're going to look for the Aurora and RDS. Okay, now here we're going to create a database, and this is going to be a standard create. Our project is asking for us to use MySQL. Okay, next we're going to go to not prod, not dev test, we're going to go free tier. Everything we're doing is free tier. Okay, let's come up with a name. Once again, let's keep it consistent with the naming convention used in the VPC, the subnets, the internet gateways, the security groups. Okay, and here is the important information that we saw in the Joomla page. The username, we have admin, we're going to leave self-managed. The master password, we're going to use the same password that we used in the Joomla app. Sure. Okay. Storage. Connectivity. We're going to connect to our EC2 instance. So hit the refresh button, drop down, and here you see we have our Adventure W Joomla EC2 instance. Okay, subnet group. Now here's an amazing thing about RDS databases. What it does, it creates additional subnet groups for this RDS database. So it will put it in multiple subnet groups as a fail-safe, as a backup plan, just in case one subnet fails, it has copies in others. By default, the first one is RDS EC2 DB subnet group 2. Okay, this is going to be on our private subnet. The RDS database, we want to keep it separate, away from the outside users. EC2 instance, we're going to leave it public because it has a Joomla application, which is going to be an interface for the customers. Okay, VPC security group, we have one in place. Let's select that. Adventure, VPC. Okay, so we selected that. And database, so that's a stay. Additional, everything's gonna stay default. Okay, so all of our settings look good. Let's go ahead and create the database. Okay. All right. So now the one thing you have to keep in mind with this RDS database, that it takes a good while to create everything. It has to create itself. It has to create different subnet groups, a backup of itself. So right now, the status is creating. After it's created, you're going to see it's backing up. Then it's going to be in an active state. So this is going to take some time. And what I'm going to do is, while I'm waiting for this to finish, once this is done, we're going to revisit the security group for the VPC, because we want to make sure, since the RDS database is in a private subnet and our EC2 instance is in a public subnet, we're going to modify the security group to allow the EC2 instance to be able to talk to the RDS and vice versa. So I'll be back in a few. I'm going to wait for this status to change. See you guys in a few. Okay, so as you can see, the status has been updated and it is now in the available state. So we can now go into the database and utilize some of the information that it provides. We have the endpoint. This is the link for the endpoint that we're going to use. This is the port 3306. We're going to input this into our security group. Here you can see the subnets that were created. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to VCP tables, VPC, monitoring, resource map, and as you can see, in the subnets. So we had, in addition to the public and private, that's in two different AZs, the RDS has created 5 subnets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is regarding redundancy. This is regarding a backup. Okay, so let's go back to our RDS. Now I'm going to make a copy of the endpoint. Let's go to the Joomla page, host name. We're going to paste that in here. Username, once again, admin. Password, we're going to put in that same password. Database name, Venture WDB1. Okay, now let's go to next and see what happens. We can connect. Okay, now you see we got an error message. You are trying to use a database host which is not on your local server. For security reasons, you need to verify the ownership of your web hosting account. Alright, so to confirm you are the owner of this website, please delete the file named this text we have created in the installation folder of your Joomla site. Okay, so to prove that we're the super user, we have to go in to our AWS CLI, see this file and delete it. So let's go back into our So we're going to go into our instances. This is our EC2. We're going to connect. We're going to pull up our command prompt. Go to the directory where our key pair is in. We're going to click the link. Okay, we're in. We're going to go to, let me clear this so that the terminal looks clean. We're going to change. Okay, so now we have to get to the var www html folder. Let me go back to, okay, it's installation folder. Okay. So let's set this ed into var. Okay, so let's get into the installation folder. Okay, so there's the file that it's talking about. So let's go in and remove this file. Okay, let's take a look to see if it was removed. Okay, so the file was removed. Let's minimize. Go to Joomla. Go to next. Okay. Now let's see another error message. Could not connect to the database. Okay, connect to return number, access denied. So this error right here indicates security group issue. Okay, so as you can see, the security group for our RDS database is VPC security group, Adventure W VPC. So let's select that. This is taking us directly to this specific security group. All right, let's select the security group itself. As you can see, so these are the original inbound rules that we put for SSH and HTTP. So this is not going to apply for now because we want to access the private subnet, the public. So let's edit. So as you can see, we completed modifying the security group, Adventure W VPC security group for the one instance, having it be able to connect to the RDS database. So as you can see, the inbound rule modified to MySQL Aurora TCP 3306, and it's allowing that the IP address of instance 1, which is in subnet 10.10.1, to come inbound and have access to the RDS database. So this is going to resolve the error message that we're having in Joomla and allow back and forth communication with the two devices. So this should work, and let's see the next step. So let's go back to the Joomla website. So we're in the database tab. I put my password. Click Go to next. Okay, the error message is gone and we're in the overview section, the finalization. So what we're going to set up is a blog. And let me see. That should pretty much be it. Let's do the installation. Let's wait a few minutes. So for this website, all right, perfect. So for this website, we're setting up a blog site. Congratulations, Joomla is now installed. Okay, so let me see, before removing installation. Okay, so now what is it saying? Okay, please remember to completely remove the installation folder. You will not be able to proceed beyond this point until the installation folder has been removed. This is a security feature of Joomla. So now, this folder is actually within the Ubuntu EC2 where we had our installation. Well, this is the same installation. So we can do it that way, or we can do it the easy way just by selecting this button. Okay, now we've done that. So our next step is to go back to the EC2 instance, select the public IP, paste that into a web browser, enter, and you see we are in the AdventureWorks blog. So this is the default home page that folks would see once they hit the URL. So now, for me to go in and modify, to create a blog, I would just go to author login, put in my credentials, password, log in, and here are all the basic features that I have. My basic settings, user profile. I can create a post, working on your site settings. So you can see I have access, full access as the author or the admin. Make any changes that I need. I can log out, and there you go, a fully functional open source web server that can be used for blogs or anything that I want. That concludes the foundational portion of this project. Thank you. Okay, so now we're about to start the advanced phase of our project. And this will include installing a second EC2 instance within the public subnet, automating the installation of Joomla. As you remember, in our first phase, foundational, we manually installed Joomla, added updates, added Apache, removed the install of HTML file, modified some files, configurations. So we're going to do this in an automated fashion. We're going to use a bash script. We're going to create an application load balancer, which in turn will create a target group. We're going to register both instances within it. We're going to modify the security groups so that the instances will not take inbound traffic via their public IP addresses, but they'll only receive traffic via the application load balancer's DNS URL. Okay, let's get it started. Okay, so now we're going to start the process and create a second EC2 instance. So this is the first one, Venture W, Joomla EC2. Let's launch a second instance. I'm going to call this one Enter W. Two EC2. Okay, so this is the second instance. I'm gonna do the same setup. Ubuntu. (64-bit) E2 micro. We're going to select the key pair. Now network setting. Remember, the first instance is in a public subnet. For the second instance, I'm going to put it also in the new VPC, Adventure W, and the subnet. I'm going to put it in, let's see, we're going to put it in second public subnet, which is US East 1B public. We're going to enable the auto IP. And let's see, we're going to use an existing security group we have before. That should work. EC2. Okay. Alright, let's go through the settings. Ubuntu T2, key pair, new VPC, public subnet, the second one, existing security group. Let's launch. Okay, let's go to our instances, refresh. Okay, as you see, the second instance is showing. Let me select that one. Okay, you see, we have a public IP address, a private. Now notice that the private IP 10.10.2, which is part of the second subnet. And the first one, 10.10.1, part of the first one. Okay, so now that we've finished installing the instance, the thing we need to do is we need to SSH into the instance, and we're going to automate the installation of Joomla, which means I'm going to create a bash script. I'm going to open up the nano editor, create a file, put the scripts within it, and create the bash script. So let me go ahead and do that now. Let's connect. SSH, command prompt. Folder that the key pairs are in. Copy the link. Yes. Okay, we're in the Ubuntu. Let me clear out this field. Okay, let me go to the, let me create the file right now. So we'll do okay. Go into the nano editor. Alright, let me get this script. Copy. Alright. Okay, so what the script is going to do is going to update the packages in Ubuntu, making sure we have the latest patches, any extensions. We're going to install Apache, we're going to install PHP, we're going to unzip PHP, we're going to start Apache, enable it, we're going to install Joomla, unpackage it, we're going to change ownership of a few files, remove the index.html. So these are all the things that we're going to do in here. So let's save it. Out of here. Okay, so next we're going to make it an executable. Alright. Alright, we're going to see if we can run this. Okay, let's run the file. All right, it's running. Definitely running. All right, let's see once completed. We're gonna go pull up the public IP. We're gonna copy paste into a web browser. We're gonna see if the Joomla application comes up. So this is great. This is looking good. This is the automation, all the combined scripts together from this bash script. Okay, Joomla installation completed and Apache configured successfully. All right. Okay, let me minimize. All right, let's go to our instance. All right, so this is the second instance. Copy the public. Put it in a web browser. Paste. All right. We have liftoff. We're at the Joomla site. Okay. Now let's put in the same information we had before. Adventure works. Similar email. Username. I'm going to use a similar password that I used. Okay, go to next. Now once again we're in the database tab. So let me get the information from there, from the RDS database, so that I can input it into here. Let's go to okay, so let me pull up. All right, let's pull up the Aurora RDS. Let's go to the database. Select the database. Okay. Now let's go back to Joomla. Let's put in the local host, the endpoint. Okay, username, admin, password. Database name. All right. Go to next. All right, once again, to confirm that we are the owner of this website, we have to delete this text file in the installation folder. So let me go back into my Ubuntu. Okay, let's go into the RW folder. Okay, we see the installation. Okay, we see the text file. So let's remove the file. Verify that it has been removed. It's no longer there. Let's select the next button. Could not connect to the database. Okay, so now we're going to look at the security group. Same as we did with the first instance, we're going to modify that. We're going to come right back. Okay, so we've completed modifying the inbound rules for the Adventure W VPC security group. As you can see, the first inbound rule, we set up MySQL Aurora protocol TCP 3306, and we customized it to allow the IP address of the instance, the second instance. And as you can remember, the second instance is on the 10.10.2 subnet, and the entire IP address is 10.10.2.156. And we created a second inbound rule, MySQL Aurora, same 3306 port, and we put the IP address of the first instance, which is on the first subnet, 10.10.1. So if we were to go to the instances, as you can see, the first instance, private IP 10.10.1 243. Go to our security group 243. The other inbound rule 10.10.2 156. Go to our second EC2 instance 10.10.2.156. So in essence, the security group is being applied to the RDS database. It's allowing access, inbound access from both of the EC2 instances, and this is definitely going to help with that error. So we saved the rule. Let's go to the next step to see what happened. Go back to the instances. Go back to Joomla. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh, because we just made a change on the security group. Let's refresh it. Brought us back to configuration. So let's put in our basic password. Let's go to next. Put in the password one more time. Next. Okay. You see we're on the third tab, Overview. I'm going to select Blog. I'm going to click Install. This all looks very familiar, doesn't it? We went through the same process for the first instance. Okay. Now we need to remove the installation folder. We did that. So now we're going to close this out. We're going to select the public IP, browser, new browser, copy, paste, enter. Try again, refresh. All right. Back at the main page. Also log in, put in my information. Okay, we're in. All right, so our EC2 instance up and running. Joomla application is working fine. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create an application load balancer so that it can take all incoming traffic and evenly distribute them amongst both instances. Okay, so now comes the fun part. So we have two EC2 instances running Ubuntu. We've set up Joomla application on both. The app is working fine on both of them. So instead of having individuals inbound traffic come in on each individually, we want to have a central URL that traffic comes in on, and it can be distributed amongst both EC2. That's what we call an application load balancer. So let's go ahead and start the process. I'm going to select load balancers, I'm going to create a load balancer. We're going to select application load balancer. We're going to give this a name. Keep it consistent with the project. Venture W load balancer. We have Adventure WALB. Okay, so after selecting the scheme, internet facing, we're going to go to our network mapping. We're going to select the Adventure W VPC. That's the correct VPC that we want. Then we have availability zones and subnets. We have to select the subnets and availability zones that we want a load balancer to manage our EC2 instances. So US East 1A, we're using that availability zone, and US East 1B, we're using that for the second public. So let's hit the first one. Okay, the subnet. Let's make sure. So it should be 10.10.1.0. So we should be using this subnet. Okay. See the second subnet. We should be using public 10.10.2.0 public. So we have an EC2 instance on the first public 10.10.1, EC2 instance, the second availability zone 10.10.2. Okay, next security group. Let's create a security group for let me see, do we have one already? Let's refresh. Take a look. Okay, so we don't have one for that. Let's create one. I'm gonna call this Venture W Application Load Balancer Security Group. It's gonna be part of the new VPC. Inbound roles, HTTP from anywhere coming in, SSH also from anywhere coming in. Create that security group. Okay, so that's been created. Let's go back to the application load balancer, which is here. And you see application load balancer security group. Get rid of the default. Okay, listeners. And we need to create a target group. Okay, basic config, instances, target group name. Target group, protocol HTTP 80 IPv. It's going to be on the new VPC. Okay, we're going to create this. We're going to select the two available EC2 instances. We're going to include it as pending below. And we're going to So we're going to have these two added. Create target group. A target group has been created. I'm going to select these two. I'm going to register. Okay, these have been registered. Go back to target group. Select this target group. Let's look at targets. Both of these are within. Okay, so now let's get back to close that out. Application load balancer. Okay, so let's select the target group. Venture W. Alright, let me see. And I think that should be it. Yep. So we have our target group, instances within, security group, subnets, availability zones, VPC, create load balancer. Alright, so the load balancer has been created. So as you can see within our target groups, both instances are now in a healthy state. So these are good to go, they're healthy, and they're ready. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our instances. We're going to go and take a look at the public IPv4 addresses. So this is the first instance. Web browser. Okay, so this page is good. Public IP ending in 91. We'll go to the second instance where the public IP ends in 80. Copy, paste. Okay, as you can see, we're accessing the web page, the public web page of the second one, which is 80, first one, which is 91. So they're both up and running. Now, if we were to go to the load balancer, select on the DNS name, web browser, enter. This also shows the web pages, but this can be either on one instance or the second instance. You really can't tell. And as I hit the refresh back and forth, you really can't tell, but you do know that it's working. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is make sure that folks aren't able to hit the individual websites by their public IPs. So we only want folks to utilize the DNS URL. So we have to make changes in the security group that our EC2 instances are using. And the security group that they both use is the one that's Adventure W EC2 SG. So we're going to have to edit it to make sure inbound traffic only comes from the application load balancer. Okay, so we're in the security groups category. We're going to select the security group that the EC2 instances are both using. So they're both using the Adventure W EC2 SG. So we're going to select that. We're going to modify. Okay, so now we're going to leave the SSH type in place because we're definitely going to need that as administrators to go into the instances in case of any issues. Now what we want to change the HTTP, we want to change it from everyone coming in to just HTTP coming in from the application load balancer security group. Let's change this. I'm going to do custom HTTP. And we're going to select the security group application load balancer. All right, so let me change this out. Oh, let's do this first. We're going to leave this. We're going to go to add a rule. We're going to do a custom. We're going to change to HTTP. And we're going to add the security group application load balancer. Then we're going to delete the first one here. Okay. So the only inbound should be SSH, HTTP coming in from the security group, the application load balancer. Let's save this. This is what we have in place. Okay, now let's go back to the instances. Okay, so let's go to the, right now let's go to the first instance. Select the public IP. Place that in browser. And as you can see, access is being denied. Get that circle, which is usually indicated as being a security group issue. So not able to get in through there. See the issue we're having? Okay, let's try the second instance. Public IP. Put that in the browser. Enter. Same thing, circle. Nothing's going through. Okay. Close that out. Now let's go to the load balancer. Get the DNS name. Web browser. Enter. And as you can see, we have access from the application load balancer. Guys, so you've seen me make changes to the security group the EC2 instances are using. They're only allowing security group from the application load balancer to come in through HTTP. So, and you see the denial of traffic coming in through the public IP addresses of each EC2 instance. So this pretty much concludes the advanced phase of this project. So I just want to thank you all for following me on this journey. We definitely learned a lot from setting up the Joomla application to configuring it, to setting up bash scripts, to setting up VPCs, subnets, internet gateways, security groups, application load balancers. This has really been a good experience for me. I've learned a lot and hope to see you guys on the next journey. Take care.